Get started. So thanks for joining. Like I said, if you don't already have a free account, I would recommend you just set one up. Sorry, as people are joining, I'm allowing them to unmute themselves. So yeah, if you don't already have an account, I would recommend you do so. You just go to bdresearchcloud.com. If you have a FlowJo portal account, it's the same email and password. If you don't have one, not a problem. Just hit create account and follow the instructions there. Okay, I will get started. So for today, I'm just going to do a brief overview of BDRC and its capabilities, but then I'll focus on what's new for v5.1 that came out recently. So if you're not familiar, Research Cloud is an online ecosystem supporting flow cytometry studies. So there's a lot of things that you can do online, one of which is upload, save, and share cytometer configurations. These can be BD instruments or they can be non-BD, not a problem at all. And then using that cytometer information, you can create panels using either BD reagents or non-BD reagents. So both are available for you there. You can manage your antibody inventory and track titrations information. And later, I'll demonstrate how you can pull that titration information into your staining sheets. That is a new feature in 5.1. We also have spectrum viewer capabilities, and you can do additional workflows. So we have the panel creation workflow, which is already predetermined for you, but you can also create customized workflows for anything in the lab that you want to keep track of. So types of workflows might be a cytometer startup and shutdown that you can set up to be recurrent so that people can just log in. It keeps track of who did what in your lab. Or it could be also an experimental workflow, especially if there's handoffs of different people handling different steps. You can create an experimental workflow, and then it keeps track of who did what and when, and you can send notifications there as well. In addition to that, you can create FACSDiva experiment directly in BDRC that then you can import into Diva. So that saves time that you're not paying the core lab for while you're setting up your experiment. And also it allows you easier importing, so copy pasting of sample information. So whether it be keywords or just sample IDs, we have spreadsheet-like capabilities that allows you to copy and paste large amounts of information so that it's embedded within your experiment. The advantage there is that it will then get written into your FCS file as part of the data, so you never lose track of what that sample was or what was done to it. And then the last item here is file storage. Within BDRC, you can upload data directly to the cloud, so it's accessible to you from anywhere. And it has capabilities with FlowJo to connect to that data and download it locally so that you're not having to manually shuffle files around, because as we know, FlowJo performance is best when your files are stored locally and not up in some shared server that you might be using at your institution. Okay, great. And anytime if you have questions or you want more details, please feel free to interrupt. I would like this to be as interactive as possible. As people are joining, I'm allowing users to unmute themselves. So yeah, feel free to jump in at any time. So what is new in 5.1? Very briefly, we have a new homepage. We have reagent barcode scanning capabilities. So using your phone or tablet or laptop, anything with a camera, you can scan BD reagents that have that 2D code on it. This can be used to either track inventory. So as an order comes in, you can quickly scan them to add to your inventory. Once they're in your inventory, you can add titration information. And if you want to look up that titration information real quick, you just scan your vial and then you can see what titer to use it at. And as well for reordering, if you just ran out of a reagent and you want to remember to reorder it, then you can just scan it and add it quickly to your wish list. So I'll be demonstrating that as well. We do have image panel design capabilities now for the FACSDiscover S8. And then once you generate data with the S8, you are given two file formats, the FCS file and also a CVW file. So that CVW file, we have extraction capabilities to turn those into TIFF images in BDRC. We have staining sheets that was not there in our previous version. So like I mentioned, once you have that titration information in your inventory, you can pull that into your staining sheets and come up with a quick calculation of how many samples to stain given your titration. And then I also mentioned this before that you can bulk rename specimen in your FACSDiva experiment, especially if you have complex names or anything that you could just copy paste with a spreadsheet-like information. And also we have some automation as part of BDRC that you can generate a titration image. So if you perform a titration, you select those, 5 or 10 point dilutions of your antibody, and we can concatenate them and generate an image for you in BDRC. So if we start with the first point, a new home page. So I will navigate over here, go to bdresearchcloud.com, and then log in with your FlowJo portal ID. And this is what you see now for the home page. We have navigation tabs up top, and those navigation tabs also match the tiles up here. So I'll do a quick overview of general BDRC capabilities, and then we'll jump into the new features. So here for panels, if you can click here or click here to access your panels. So what's in the panel section are previous custom panels that you may have generated yourself or any lab mates. And we also have preloaded OMIPs that's available to all, as well as BD panels. And so these are useful to just look up information of what those panels are, what cytometer is created on visualization. So if you want to look at the spectral information of those panels in hindsight, and then we also have those staining sheets that I'll get into in just a second. And if you want to search for panels, so let's say you want to use an OMIP or you're curious to see if there's an OMIP that suits your need, you can just start typing in antigens here, CD14, CD19. And so as you see, I'm adding more and more reagents here, and then the list is filtering to only show me which panels contain those specific markers, and then you can click on them and see if any of them suit your need. So we show the panel as entered. We also have the citation link for OMIPs, and you can look at those panels as is, or you can use it as a base to then modify it to see if it's compatible with your cytometer, or if you want to make a few simple swaps or deletions from these pre-built panels, you can do so. All right, so then I can either navigate back to the home page or go to another section directly here, but I'll just go back for demonstration purposes to the home page. So we went through the panels section. In experiments, this is where you would create FACSDiva experiments. So these are past experiments I've already created. I can edit, I can duplicate, or I can create from new. And then by creating a new experiment, it'll guide me through the process. I'll select the cytometer, the plate layout, identify cells, pull in panels, change voltages if I want to. So those are all capabilities that exist within the experiment creation. But again, today I'm just going to focus on 5v.1 details, but I'm happy to explore that later if there are questions. Workflows. So within workflows, like I said, these are either the panel creation workflow that's already been created for you, or you can make customized workflow. So here we have an example of a Symphony startup. So this is really detailed, and the advantage of custom workflows, you can make them as detailed or not as desired. So these are really granular ones that keeps track of every single step, or you could just say step 1, clean instrument, step 2, run QC. So it's really up to you of the level of detail you want to track in your lab. So that was an example of a cytometer startup, or you can also have a workflow experiment workflow where you have thaw cells, count the cells, and you can have a protocol here. And then as users perform these steps, it keeps track of who did it, and there's a timestamp, and at the end there's a report. And this is really nice if you build a workflow that then you have an acquisition step at the end. You can upload your files directly to the workflow, and then everything stays together, that you know exactly what the cells are, what they were treated with, what panel do you use, and then the data is there. So it's a nice organizational tool. But again, you don't have to use workflows. That's the nice part about BD Research Cloud. You can take it or leave it. You can still upload data outside of workflows if you are not interested in the workflow feature. All right, next is the data. So you can either upload data directly into workflows, or you can just store it in your data management tool here. So it's data up top, and here are the different project folders that get created. The structure within BDRC is that you create groups within your organization, and the people in those groups have access to the data within those groups. So you can have multiple groups within the same organization and assign people to the different groups, and those people will only have access to certain data. So we have that flexibility here if you want to control who has access to what as well. Next is cytometers. So here is where you would upload and save cytometers. If you're a core lab manager, you would just upload your cytometers directly here. If you're a user of a core lab, you can connect to other people's cytometers. So here I have the little public icon. This is not my cytometer, but I connected to it. And when I mean connected, it just means that the configuration information is available to me to create panels and to create a FACSDiva experiment if it's a Diva software running instrument. So this is, an example of a public cytometer. These are cytometers I've uploaded myself, and then other cytometers here as well. The way to add a cytometer is with the button up here. And there's 3 ways to upload your cytometers. If it's a Diva running instrument, you can just upload the configuration file. That's our recommended method. And that way that the parameters are perfectly named and there's no mismatch. But if it's not a Diva running instrument, you can just create a custom one over here, and you can use a BD one as a base. Or if it's not a BD instrument, you can just add one laser and detectors and manually enter your information here. By clicking this publicly discoverable checkbox, this makes your cytometer available for others to view its configuration and make panels with. So this is the middle tab up here, add a public cytometer. So if I wanted, as a core lab user, I would search here for what is my core lab. I would click on it. I would see which cytometers are available from that core lab. I would click on it and just press the link cytometer, and then I would have that configuration available to me. As a core lab manager, I can also send notifications about a cytometer. So if this is one of mine, I would click on it. I could say take offline, and then it will notify. I can add a little message, oh, cytometer down for the day or maintenance or whatever. And this will automatically notify all the users that have this cytometer linked to them to let them know about the status. All right, so that's cytometers. Reagents. So this is the inventory section that I mentioned before. So there's multiple tabs here. You have access to the BD catalog. You can search for any reagent here just to see if we offer it. Custom reagents. This is where you can manually add non-BD reagents to use in panel design, or any custom, if you have in-house made tetramers or custom conjugates that aren't in the BD catalog, you add those here, and then they become available to you during panel design. We have a spectrum viewer tab where you can have different types of views. So here, if I select on the S8, so you can have the combined view that here you can look one laser at a time, or you can have a stacked view where you look at one laser line at a time. Or if it's a spectral instrument, you can toggle over to the spectral signature view or the heat map view, which is available for the BD instruments. The inventory feature is where you actually keep track of vials that are in your lab. So it will have lot numbers, and if you've chosen to add titration information, you can click on it and titer, and you would see the titration information that you've added. So this was a 2 microliter in 400 microliter total staining volume for a final dilution of 1 in 200. You can add multiple titers for a reagent if you have different conditions that you use them under that require different titers, or you can just have the one. So if you have multiple, you would just select which one you want to show on the main card, or if you just have the one, this one is shown by default. And I'll show you later that this titration information gets pulled into the staining sheet feature that I will show in just a second. Here we have populations. This is where you can define your own population antigen density. BDRC comes with literature-defined populations along with citations just to show, basic markers that define certain cell populations to help out new users. And then we also have the link of where we got those definitions. But users can add their own custom populations. We realize the antigen density can change drastically based on your cell type, your conditions, the isolation type that you chose. So the source of those cells can really affect antigen density. So based on your specific conditions that are being used in your lab, you can upload the antigen density information and specific markers that you tend to use to identify cell types. And this is useful during panel creation, that if you're always using the same markers that have the same antigen density while creating your panels, you can just import them all at once. So you don't have to always add them one by one. So that's the population. So to create one, you would just hit this create button and add the markers one at a time. And lastly, the two last tabs, groups and projects and users. So groups and projects, this is how you organize who has access to what data. So you would create different groups and invite different users to those groups. And within the groups, you can have additional subfolders that represent project to better organize your data. So here we have users that are in this group, and I can also assign different group level permissions, or if I go to the users tab, then I can see the details and permissions that they have on the organization level. Are they allowed to modify cytometers? Yes or no? Can they view data outside of their own group, like an admin level type of deal? Manage staining sheets, so you can dictate what users can and cannot do as the administrator of your organization. When you first sign up to BDRC, you're given an individual organization. So here I would have Emilie's individual organization. This is meant for solo work, things that I just want to keep for myself that I don't necessarily want to share or show other people. But if you're in a lab and you want to have that collaborative workspace where you're putting everybody's data in a shared location, then I would say the next step to the individual org. So just to demonstrate, if you go to the users section, it shows this is your individual org. You can't add additional users to this org, but you can create a collaborative org. So to do that, I click my name up here, go to create an organization, and then here are the different license types within BDRC. So you're given your individual one when you first create your account, and then you can create an essentials one. So this is a free org. Create a free org. You would give it a name, so probably the name of your core lab or the name of your PI that you work in, or your name if you're the PI. And then this allows you to invite up to 9 other people. So 10 total users. You get additional data storage per user as well. And you're given access to a few more features that are not available in the individual org. There are some features that are only available to our professional and premium, which are paid license types. So these you would click for a quote depending on the number of seats that you're looking for. Of note, our titer management and inventory features are premium features at the moment. But we hope to offer free trials if you're interested in testing it out to see if this is of interest for you or if this is useful. Please reach out. We're happy to give you a temporary trial for these upgraded license types. Any questions so far? I realize I'm going kind of quick, but I want to get into those 5.1 features. So far, so good? All right. All right, so now that you kind of have, whoops, I'm going to change my org back to the collaborative one. My lab. Okay. So now that you've kind of seen the overview, we're going to jump into the new features. So we went through the new homepage. Let's look at reagent barcode scanning. So that is in the reagents section. So if I go to reagents here or reagents here, we have scanned reagents. That is a feature, a new feature that wasn't there in previous versions. So if you click here and click scan a reagent, it'll ask for access for your camera. And so I took some shots from my phone. So this is available if you just log into BDRC through your phone, through your regular browser. This is what you'll see. So BD Research Cloud, it'll say select a camera. So once I've selected a camera and press data matrix, it'll open up a little camera that you then can zoom on. So there are zoom buttons as well. And depending on your phone, it might look slightly different, if you have an iPhone or an Android, what version you're running and all that. But in a nutshell, it looks somewhat like this. And you'll be able to scan those 2D barcodes on BD reagents. Once it picks up the barcode, it shows up here as a scanned reagent. And it will also show up on the full version, which is the desktop, or not the desktop, but the non-mobile version of BDRC. And it will also show up here in the scan reagent. So you see this list here matches what was shown on my phone. So when you scan a reagent, it'll just give you a snapshot with a little bit of details here. And if you click on a scanned reagent, then it'll give you additional details of that particular reagent. And if you've already added it to your inventory, so the first time here that I've scanned it, if it's not in my inventory, it's going to let me know it's not in my inventory. And I have the choice to add it to my inventory or add it to my wish list if I want to, purchase another one, or if I just want to look up information about this vial. So if it's already in my inventory and I've added titration information, but I don't remember what it is, here is that screenshot that it shows for that reagent that I just scanned and clicked on. It shows me the dilution information. So once I've found the information I need, I can just delete the scan, or I can leave the scan to do additional features, functions with that scan. So that was the reagent barcoding. So you can, add it to inventory or add it to wish list. So you can do that either through your mobile device, or if you're back on the full version, then here are the buttons: add to inventory, add to wish list, or delete the scan. If I say add to wish list, it then appears on this page. And so every user has a default wish list that then it gets added to. If I want to create different wish lists, so based on maybe different projects have different budgets that I want to order from, I can create additional lists and order a subset of the default and move those reagents around to different wish lists if needed. All right, I'm just unmuting some people. Great. So that was the wish list, cart shopping, titration lookup I went through. Okay, let's jump into imaging panel design for the S8. So to do so, I can access, the way I like to do it, I like to go panels and create panels. So let's go do that. I give it my panel a name and assign it a project. So you always assign things you create within BDRC to a project for organization and also permissions reasons so different people have different access to it. I can either start a panel from scratch, or I can start one from a previous one. So here, if I click, I will see all the custom panels that are in my organization, or I can select OMIPs to use as a base, or I can select BD panels. But if I don't make any selections here, I can just press start and create one from scratch. So let's do that. All right, so we are here, select a cytometer. So I'm going to select the S8 for imaging purposes. And I can also double check here the configuration of the cytometer I've selected. So it shows the UV, violet, blue laser, and then the additional imaging blue that has up to 3 colors here. So if I click complete step, so step 1 is cytometer selection. Step 2 is selecting your targets. So here I can select my species, and I can either add antigens one at a time, right? Like we're used to doing CD3, enter, all that. Or if you've already created a population, in the population section, I can pull in all that information along with the antigen density, all with one click, right? So I'm going to add a few more antigens just for fun. CD19, 20. If you've created any custom reagents or antigens, they will show up here as well. And I'm going to include a viability dye. So what is new with the S8 is that you have this extra column that is not there for, if you've selected a non-imaging cytometer, you won't see this, but if you've selected the S8, you have this imaging column that you can select. So for this panel, I'm going to choose to visualize through imaging up to 3 markers. I'm going to select those 3. And then we also have our existing one, the exclusion one. So this is a dump channel. If you want to put more than 1 marker in the same color because you're negatively selecting for them, you have the option to do so. So I'm going to dump out my B cell markers just for demonstration purposes. I'm going to keep this panel small just to keep things moving along. If you wanted, you can restrict which type of reagents are available to you. If you have specific clone preferences, you can restrict those at this point, or you just leave it default to see all the fluorochrome colors that are available for all the clones. Again, feel free to interrupt at any time if I'm going too fast or if you have questions. So here we are at step 3. This is where we manually assign fluorochromes to the markers we've assigned in step 3. So what's new with the S8 is that you have markers here that have been separated out because they've been tagged as imaging markers, right? So these are the ones that I selected with that column. And then below are the non-imaging markers, and then the exclusion ones that are in the dump channel. So if I select the first marker, I see what colors that marker is available in. This list gets populated by the 2 tabs in the reagent section. It gets populated by what's in the BD catalog and also what you've entered in your custom reagent. So this could be non-BD fluorochromes that you wish to include in your panel. So for fun, if I start clicking here on the fluorochromes, you can see that the spectrum viewer on the right starts to get populated. Because these have been marked as imaging marker, these are fluorochromes that will get excited only by the blue laser. And I can switch views back to the combined one. So this shows me the imaging filters and shows me how well of a fit these fluorochromes work given the configuration and their excitation level by the blue laser. So visually, you can select which ones you want using the different views. So this was the combined view where we're selecting the imaging blue laser. If you toggle this will show the spectral blue laser filters. You can also use the stacked view if you want to see all lasers at once. The imaging blue is at the bottom. You can have the spectral signature or the heat map as well. So I'll show you how to toggle back and forth once we have a bit more fluorochrome. So let's just all right, let's go with FITSI. Once I have a fluorochrome that I like for a marker, I just pair it, and then this will become static. So as I add to it, I'll see the interaction between the fluorochromes for the panels. You'll also notice that some warnings now have popped up because of interactions of fluorochromes with previously paired fluorochromes. So here, if I hover over M-cyan, it's saying, oh, it's using the same peak filter as something I've already paired for imaging. So it's letting me know, oh, this might not be a great choice. Same here, it's showing me FITSI's already paired. And these are toggles that you can use up here to hide the warning. So it will remove any fluorochromes that has those warnings so that you're just left with a cleaner list. But for now, I'll just leave it for demonstration purposes. You can also filter these fluorochromes in different ways. You can filter them by fluorochrome name. You can search for specific fluorochromes here if you don't want to scroll up and down looking for something, if you know you want a specific color. So you can sort by fluorochrome name, brightness, resolution, laser, and you can also use the toggle to up and down the sort order. So for CD8 here, let's go with, sure, some PE. And then Fox P3, something down over here. Sure. Let's select that. So now that I've selected the 3 imaging parameters, I'm moving on to the non-imaging markers. So if I click on CD3, let's see if I get a warning. So yeah, these ones are showing me warnings down here. And if I hover, it's saying BB515 will be detected in 1 or more imaging channels and may negatively affect the quality. So if I click on here, right, it's overlapping with the FITSI, so that's not a great choice. And it's showing me, same with the NovaFluor, that it's going to end up being in my imaging channel filter. So it's going to affect the imaging quality. So don't select those. So those what those warnings are. But if I stay with the ones that don't have warnings, then I can select something that I like. So let's go to spectral signature view here. As I click through, let's pick something UV related. So a Spark UV, this is a non-BD fluorochrome. So I've already created the CD3 Spark UV in the custom reagent. So that's why it's showing as available here, even though it's not a BD reagent. But let's continue here. Let's select a violet, try to space things out. Sure, and of course I'm going quite quickly here, so that we won't end up with the most optimal panel, but it will work. Let's go maybe here, sure. And then the exclusion marker, right? So we want 2 markers in the same fluorochrome. It shows me what they're both available in. Okay, why not? So I've tried to space things out a little bit based on lasers. I can look at one laser at a time. So in this view, the combined view, it shows me, so you select which laser line you're interested in. So the laser line will show you the primary fluorochromes in a filled curve, and then the hashed curves are showing spillover coming from other lasers, other fluorochromes that get excited by other lasers. So it gives you an indication of what might spill over where and cause spreading or loss of resolution. So here, this PE, even though it's going to be blue for imaging, it's going to be primary yellow-green for a spectral. So you can look at it that way. Or again, in the stacked view to see everything all at once is an option. If you want to hide individual fluorochromes, even though that they were paired, you can do so. One tool that I like to use is if I scroll down to the population, I can press here the view population. And what this will do is remove anything that's negative for this population. So what I'm left with are only markers that will be co-expressed for the population of interest. And in step 2, the previous step, I only put a single population, but you have the option to put more than one. So you can have Tregs, monocyte, dendritic cells, depending on your panel, especially if it's a particularly large one that you're looking at multiple cell subsets that have different expression of these markers. You can look at them one at a time and assess visually what kind of issues you might encounter with co-expression, if any. Oh, I kind of glossed over the similarity matrix. So as you're going through here, let's unpair this guy. So as you're making selections here, this gets updated. Sorry. So yeah, as you're clicking through the different fluorochromes, it'll update the similarity matrix and give you an idea of similarity matrix information, as well as the complexity score. So we have spectral information for most fluorochromes, most commonly used ones. There are a few that we may not have, and those get highlighted. I don't see any right now, but if your similarity matrix shows up with NA, it just means that we don't have spectral signature information for that particular fluorochrome, and in that case, the complexity score cannot be calculated. So you might see that error. You can still build a panel around it, you just won't get that additional information with that particular fluor. Any questions so far? Okay, so I'll just pair this with a random fluorochrome, and now we can move on to the next step. So now that I've paired all the markers with the fluorochromes, I'm happy with the panel, it shows me what reagent options are available to me. So for CD3, BUV395, there are different test size, and if there are more than one clones, those are shown to me here. I can, click on the image to make it bigger if I want to look at the details, or I can click on Learn More. And this will bring me to the BD website and show me details about that particular fluorochrome. So you can, change your selections if you have a test size or a clone preference at that point. List price is also shown, and also list price for the individual markers are shown. If I'm happy with those decisions, I click complete. And now this is finalizing the shopping list. So if I want to purchase all of them, I just continue. If I have some of these, I can delete them, the ones I don't need to purchase, and only keep the ones I do need to purchase. If you have access to the inventory feature, it will let you know with a little check mark which ones you already have in your lab that you don't need to purchase. And you can also remove them all with one click. Remove everything that's already in my inventory and just purchase what's left. Again, list price, and now I'm going to finalize the workflow. So this is the last step where I have a finalized panel, I have a finalized shopping list. I can either go straight to BD cart. If your institution allows for that, you can purchase them directly here. So the reagent list gets transferred over. If I sign in, then I'll get updated pricing based on my login information and institutional discounts. So that was the BD cart. I can also create a shopping list, which is compatible with Punchout. So I won't go through that whole process, but you just log in and it creates a shopping list items. And then you can also download, right? So either download the panel summary or just the shopping list. You can email it. If you're not the one purchasing yourself and you have to email it to your admin to place the order, you can email the shopping list. You can request a quote to get in touch with your reagent rep. So just by pressing the button based on your location, BDRC will just automatically send an email, and also the reagent list that you're interested in getting a quote for. And then lastly, I can view panel details. So now that I'm done, I want to see my finalized panel. And here it is. It'll show up back in the panel section under custom panel, and it'll show the details of the panel I just created. I see the details of the panel, the cytometer details that it was built on, the visualizations tool that you can look back and assess the spectral characteristics of the panel you built, and then also the staining sheet. So right now I only had one of the reagents that was in my inventory. So it looked it up, it saw what lot was available to me, lot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and what I had titered it at. So when I go to create the staining sheet, it automatically pulls this information. So this panel has reagents that I have not entered titration information for, so I can just manually add them if I wanted to. But alternatively, I'll toggle over to a panel that I've already set up, that I've already performed titration information on, and I've entered that information in the inventory. And so now when I toggle to the staining sheet, it already shows me what lots available to me and what titration I've entered for this. You can always overwrite the titration if for whatever reason you don't want to use that one. You can just manually update it with a different titer. So you're not stuck to this if you don't want to use it. If you have more than one lot, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, so here we go. So if you have more than one lot in your inventory, you can select the lot that's in front of you that you look to use. And if it has a different titer, it will update it. Expiration date, if you've entered that in the inventory, it'll also show you that information. So let's go ahead and create a staining sheet. So this first step is you have to enter all the titer information. So I'm going to hit save to save that information. Then I will create my first staining step. So by clicking add, I'm on staining step 1. I can rename this. I'm going to call it my viability stain. And I'm going to take my viability dye and drag it over because that's what I want to stain for today. My staining volume is default 100, but I can change that. Number of samples, let's say 5. And as I change these numbers, the calculations get updated. And the stain buffer, if I want to specify what I'm actually going to dilute the viability stain in, I can do that. So for viability, I don't want any, protein in there. So I'm going to change this to PBS and hit create. So now I have staining step 1 that has been created. I want to then add another one. So staining step 2, I'm going to say is my surface stain. And my staining buffer, I'm going to say it's wash buffer. And I'm going to pull in my surface stain. So CD3, 4, 8, 19, 20, 25, and 127. Again, I'm going to do 5 for whatever reason, just for kicks. I'm going to change this to 50. So you can see everything gets updated. And if I wanted to add a brilliant stain buffer at this step, it shows you know, our catalog numbers and the recommended volumes here. So I'm going to use this one, just drag it over. Everything gets updated. So brilliant stain buffers work differently, that it's a microliter per stain, right? So that the calculations get performed accordingly. And I'm going to hit create. I forgot to mention that before starting this process, if you had any additional reagents that you wanted to add aside from staining buffers like FC block or monocyte block or anything like that, you can also add it here and it'll get added to your panel and become an option during your staining steps. So last step here, fantastic, is going to be my intranuclear. All right, and then I'm going to drag in the FACSDiva. Do I want brilliant stain? Why not? I'm gonna throw that in there. And then this will be washed. Oh no, this won't be washed. This will be the what's it called? I'll just say buffer. So with FOXP3, depending on the transcriptional factor you use, you might need to stain in that buffer for best results. So I can make a note of that there, right here, and there you go. I don't know if you noticed that as I'm creating the staining steps, fluorochromes that were used in previous steps become grayed out so that you don't double stain them or get confused. And then this one, I forgot to update the number of samples. So I'll go back here, edit, press 5, update. There you go. And so once you're done, you can download the PDF or the CSV of your staining sheet. And then you have a nice little summary and the math behind what you need to stain for that day. So we hope that this speeds up your staining steps. You can also update this. So you only have one staining sheet available at a time. So if you come tomorrow and you want to change those numbers, you just update it. We're assuming that the PDF is the source of truth of, what you stained for that one day. And then if you change it, then, that's your new record of the day of what you did. Any questions about the staining sheets? All right. So let's see. We went through the homepage, barcoding, image panel design, staining sheets. So I didn't go through here, bulk rename. Okay. So CVW file extraction is just a button that once you upload a CVW file, well, actually, as you upload it to BDRC, and I'll show you how to do that. So that would be in the data. In the data section, you just go to your project file where you want to upload it. And then I would select upload to project, click that, and then you can either drag single files and then it'll stay in the root file project. Or if I want to drag in a folder, it'll create a folder with those elements within it. So I would just drag it in here and then it gets uploaded. And if it sees that you're uploading CVW, it'll ask you right away, do you want to extract once we're done uploading? So you can just click yes, and that will happen in the background. Or if you haven't extracted it yet, it's a button here that you press, and then that gets turned into the TIFF images that get stored in the S3 bucket. So once the extraction is complete, you'll just have a message here saying extraction complete. Those files will not become visible to you in this structure, because or else you'd get cluttered with tens of thousands of individual cell images, right? So it'll just let you know images are extracted. They're there in the background if you want to use them with FlowJo and CellView Lens. Any questions about that? All right. Staining sheet. So let's do the titration, and then I'll finish off with the Diva. Titration image. So again, in data, if I go to titrations, project files, and then I'll go to my HLA-DR titration. So here I have a series of dilution, right? That I titrated HLA-DR, APCH7. So I can select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and go to the batch action button and say generate titration image. And so it'll ask me, where do you want to save it? I want to save it in the project, in my titration group or project, in my HLA-DR titration subfolder. What do I want to name it? I want to name it, today's 2023, December 13, titration image. And what do I want to call this? Within the image, do I want to give it a title? So I'm going to say HLA-DR APCH7, lot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then here it shows the files I've selected. And if I want to rename these, so the default name will just be the file name, but if I want to rename them, I can say, 5 microliter, or let's start with 10. So 10 microliter, 5 microliter, 2.5, 1.25, and 0.6. And then I'm going to press confirm. So image generation in progress. It takes a minute the first time because the microservice has to boot up from cold. So we're just going to wait a few seconds for that titration image to generate itself. I'll get another flash message once it's complete. There we go. So here I can click view image. It'll bring me directly to that image. There it is. It shows me, 10 microliter, 5, 2.5. So it's a nice, easy concatenation that you don't have to do it yourself manually. So that's an example of a microservice that we've performed in BDRC. We hope to move more and more towards these automated type of features that by uploading your data to the cloud, we have access to that data and we can do things to it, right? And again, the BDRC is in active development. We're constantly adding more features. If there's something specific that you would like to see in BDRC that adds value to you or saves time for you, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and share your desires, and we can see what we can do. The objective here with BDRC is to make your life easier and streamline analysis and anything related to flow, right? So last thing we didn't cover was bulk rename specimens if you're creating a FACSDiva experiment. So if I go to experiments, I'll just, okay. For time, I'll jump into one I've already created, but if you want me to go through the whole process, I'm happy to do so. So here, if you have a plate loader capability, you can generate your samples here. And it gives them a default name of specimen, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you want to just leave that default name for now, I'll show you how to bulk rename them. You can rename them here individually, but if you had, a full plate, this would take time to rename one by one. If we go to keywords, then I'll show you how to copy paste. If you don't have a plate loader, you would just go straight to this where you would add, specimens and samples as you would in Diva. Then if you're starting from blank, you select all your tubes, and then you can then pull in panel information from any panel that you've created in BDRC. So if this was a new experiment, I'd have samples here that don't have any labels in the parameters. I would just look up what panel I've created, and these would get auto-filled for me so that there's no typos, no spending time renaming all of these. It's just pulled in and everything works. And then here in keywords, this is where you have the chance to add additional keywords. And those keywords can be, stimulation conditions. These could be information about the samples themselves, if these are subjects, which cohort they fall into, the age, any kind of parameter that you'll want to sort with or use for download graphing purposes, entering them within the FCS and having FlowJo being able to sort using those keywords, it makes your life a lot easier. So we've made adding keywords and populating those keyword values easier through BDRC. So if I just say create a new spreadsheet for demonstration purposes. So if I go, how many samples do I have here? 10. A, H, I, whoops, J. Okay, so then, assuming these are long, very complicated names, I don't want to rename manually. I could just copy here, come to the specimen and paste it, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, And same with the keywords here. If I had this long, 1, 2, 3, I could, copy paste. Can I do 2 keywords at a time? I'm not sure. Yes, I can. Here we go. So yeah, you could just copy paste large information, large amounts of information all at once, and it'll paste into your keywords. So the specimen bulk rename is a new feature of this recent release. So in a nutshell, those are the upgrades that we've done for 5.1. I'm happy to go into these in more detail or to go through any other existing BDRC functionality if you want to learn more about it. I'm happy to spend time on that. Any questions? I don't see anything in the chat or in the Q&A or unmuting. I'm going to stick around for a couple more minutes if anyone wants to discuss anything privately, but if not, thank you very much for joining today, and I hope you give BD Research Cloud a shot and let us know what you think.